In today's video, I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P 500, including the economic calendar. I do post these videos daily, so I highly encourage you to double check my latest videos on X and YouTube, so that way you get the most latest up-to-date information. And if you do find this video beneficial towards the end, consider dropping a like. It does help out the channel, so thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. First, before I get into the support and resistance levels and how the market could be moving tomorrow, I'm going to go over the economic calendar. So for Friday, June 28th, we do have a pretty jam-packed day. At 6 a.m., we have Richmond Fed President Tom Barkin's speech in Paris. Then at 8:30 a.m., we have personal income nominal, as well as personal spending nominal. Then we have PCE index, PCE year over year, Core PCE index, Core PCE year over year. And these are important for tomorrow, especially the Core PCE year over year. This is inflation numbers, and the Fed highly regards these inflation numbers as more accurate versus the CPI and PPI inflation numbers. The one that they'll be looking at the most is the Core PCE year over year, which previously was at 2.8%. This time around, they're expecting 2.6%. Now, the market did close 3 minutes, 5 minutes beforehand, not necessarily close, but towards the last 3 minutes of trading day, at least 3 minutes, if not 5, the Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P 500 pretty much all spiked to the upside. So the market could be anticipating better than expected inflation numbers, or at least hitting the targets. And the significance of that is if the inflation comes in lower than expected, and so on and so forth, or at least in the ballpark, then it gives the market a little bit more of a confidence boost, where they're expecting one interest rate cut this year, and it will reaffirm that potentially there could be one interest rate cut this year. If it comes in worse than expected, so therefore inflation is increasing, then the market will take it as a potential signal that the Fed might not cut interest rates this year and push it to next year. But we've seen it before, though, too, where it was slightly worse than expected, but the market still went up to the upside that day. So keep that in mind as well. By the way, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. At 8:40, we have San Francisco Fed President Daly TV appearance. 9:45 a.m., we have Chicago Business Barometer PMI. 10 a.m., we have Consumer Sentiment Final. 12 p.m., we have Fed Gov Bowman speech. 12:40 p.m., we have San Francisco Fed President Daly speech as well. Now, in terms of the movements, I'm going to go over the SPY, which is the ETF for S&P 500 first. So I'm going to cover, usually I give the direction based off MACD lines, but because tomorrow the market will be pretty much predominantly dictated by the PCE numbers that come out, and if it comes in better than expected, market will pretty much start going up to the upside and break through the resistance levels. If it comes in worse than expected, depending on the range, if it's quite significant, then we can start seeing movement to the downside. So the MACD lines will be superseded. That's the only downfall. So there's no point for that. But I will say the VIX is on the low, pretty low right now. But again, tomorrow the VIX will react based off the PCE numbers. So everything's pretty much neglected, waiting for tomorrow. Now, in terms of the SPY, we closed at $546.37. And the price points, if we were to head lower, first we could bounce off potentially this moving average right here at 545 and some change. Then the next level is about 544 and some change, which 544 held quite a bit, a couple times. We saw it today in today's trading day, plus it was the moving average throughout the day as well. And then we have 543 at the next level, and potentially we could keep going lower. Depending on, the thing is, though, the inflation numbers, they've been pretty much on track as expectations, and even if it was worse than expected, the market still went up. So I personally think, unless it's horrendous, it'll probably hit the 543 and then start bouncing up to the upside. But either way, I'll cover the next lower levels. So the price range basically we're going to be looking at as support potentially is the 540 to the 538. Can we bounce off other support levels? Yeah, the 541 will but could hold us at the 540. But essentially somewhere between the range of 541 and some change to the 538 and some change will probably be hovering around that price point and trying to bounce up within those levels. Now, to the upside, we've had difficulties passing this potential resistance / support level right about here. We did pass it today. Let me go in with the one day chart. So you can see it was trying to pass that level, ticked, did not necessarily pass it, came back down, so on and so forth. And then after hours, it has passed it. Question is, will we pass it? And that level is at $547 and some change. So $547 is the first level that we need to pass. And then after that, we're looking at pretty much 548 and some change on the high side. So essentially 549. And then the next level is the all-time high, so 550 and some change. After that, I personally don't think we're going to pass the all-time high tomorrow. Actually, no, wait, sorry about that. Let me retract that part. If the inflation comes in way lower than expected, like not way lower, but a decent amount, and then yeah, we could pass 550. We could create new all-time highs. So this was an all-time high. Technically though, this was pre-market though. So the actual all-time high was more or less around pretty much 549 and some change. So the 550 hasn't been fully cracked potentially, but either way, 550 and some change is what the all-time high would be. So maybe it will pass the all-time high and start going up to the higher levels fully. And if it does, I'll keep you guys posted on X and YouTube, and I'll let you guys know what levels will be pretty much past at that point, or in terms of resistance levels. Now, the QQQ slash Nasdaq ETF, it's a little bit different. There is more leg room to go to the upside, but for the downside first, to cover it based off the moving average, first we closed at $481 and some change, and then the first level as support is 480 and some change. The next level is about 478 and some change, and then 477 and some change. Now the moving averages could hold up for the downside, what we could see is a dip in the beginning of the day, and then towards the end of the day it could go higher. Because I think when it was slightly higher before last time for the inflation numbers, even though I think it dipped in the early parts of the day, and then towards the end of the day it just pretty much climbed up. So again, the market didn't care too much about slightly increased inflation numbers. But either way, 477 is the first, the next support level, and then after that we get into the range of basically support at potentially 474 and some change to the 472 and some change within that range, which coincides with this upward trend resistance line slash support level at 47.1 and some change. And the significance of this line, in case you're a new viewer, upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010, and you can see multiple times resistance. And then in 2020 to 2022, it broke through but acted as support 1, 2, 3 times, not necessarily here. And then when we came back underneath it, we acted as resistance. Now zooming in right here, the 3-month chart, we consolidated around that price point during after hours and pre-market, and then just spiked up through it completely. And then basically that is the level about the 471 and some change that I'm giving that we could bounce off of. Or if the inflation comes in way worse than expected, then I'm expecting that would hold us. Now to the upside, if you think it's going to bounce up to the upside, inflation numbers are good and all that stuff, you're looking at first resistance level, give or take about the $483 and some change. Then the next level predominantly will be 486 and some change, but basically it's going to be this level, 486 and some change on the high end, so 487. That's based off 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 touch points. When I zoom in, it's like consolidating a little bit. So again, that's 487, give or take. And then the all-time high that was during pre-market is about 488 and some change. So we could see a new all-time high tomorrow based off inflation number. We'll see, but it's not a guarantee. Now for the Dow Jones, we're within this channel, dates back since 2021 for this upward trend resistance line. And then as of recent for this upward trend support level as of April 2024. And if you think it's going to just basically drop down to this level, just so I could cover it right now, we closed at 39,164 points, give or take. And this level, that is the support level, if we were to drop down tomorrow, you're looking at about 38,200 points, give or take. Now to the upward trend resistance level, if you think we're going to just spike up to it, you're looking at, give or take, about 40,200 points. And in terms of the actual movements for potentially tomorrow, in terms of the upper limits, again, we close at 39,164 points. The first upper limit resistance level is basically about 39,250 points, but then the next level is about 39,650 points. And then from that, I don't know, personally, I don't think we're going to go higher, but if you think we're going to go higher, it's about 39,900 points. Just basically to show you like how I'm getting some of them. It's essentially, there's like 1, 2, I'm just drawing a quick line basically, but 1, 2, and then 3 touch points general area. So there's that. And then the previous all-time high will be about 40,050 points, give or take, 40,070 points. And then to the downside, bounce off potentially moving average, which is about 38,975 points, and then 38,900 points. And then the next level in terms of actual support, because I think if we were to drop down, we could potentially go down to 38,500, 38,400, which we've seen support quite some time with that level. And that's basically it for today's video. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. If you did find it beneficial, consider dropping a like. It does help the channel. So thank you so much for that again. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.